So we're here to solve this country road puzzle by Ashish Kumar called Brick Wall. You can see the clean pattern with these 2x2 squares. As we get started, I'm going to help myself out. Composite is the only thing that's on by default here, but I'm going to turn on this edge helper because there's at least one kind of rule of country road puzzles that's helped by having the ability to mark boundaries. The reason we have this line OX option is that another thing in country road is to just mark some cells as usable or unusable. And a key thing at the start of this grid is actually seeing these ones, both in the lower right and the upper left, are fairly constrained. If the loop came into a cell like this, it has to quickly leave that spot, and it's not going to be possible along this edge that you can't come in and then turn. And so because of that, you're going to have cells like these that must be part of the loop in some way. And once we get to here, we're going to have a situation where we're moving into this space. If this entered this one, it has to immediately exit, which forms an issue. So it has to go sort of kitty corner through. It's going to leave behind, though, a set of unused cells, which leave for sure a set of used cells. And the same logic actually plays out over here, that these border edges can't be part of the loop. So we get these marked in. In marking those in, we now have a case where this has to take a kitty corner route and dodges other things around it, and we get these cells as all part of the loop. We've marked two of the cells in this two region as in the loop, so the others are not in the loop, and so these are now being marked. And this is where I'm going to finally come and just go to the helper edge and say one thing in a country road, particularly in this pattern, is once we have one of the edges of the region going into another shape, we're not going to have the remaining loop section enter that shape. And in particular, if we even had like this loop end enter this shape, these ends would eventually connect because you only come in or out of each region once. And so once we see some of these things, this top right edge is going to come into this square, but it also can't then rejoin into this square. And so some of these connections will be helpful to mark as we keep going. I'm going to come back to the left side now. So just as we had extensions of this loop corner into the space were helpful, one thing right now is that around this 3, we have to get a valid loop pattern, and there are two options based on just which of these remaining unused cells is actually unused. And notice that in this pattern, we are forming a 3-way loop junction, and so what we can't do is have that. So if this loop end is here and we start to go out, to get to 3 cells, we couldn't get back to the circle. So the second cell and the third cell are here. This is unused. This is part of the loop. We get back to a situation where we have the loop continuing out here, continuing in this space. We're going to have an unmarked edge there. And so the loop may or may not sort of come through these cells, but for sure it's entering this space to the right. And one thing that that's going to actually require is that we have to get through this channel effectively to get into one of these squares on the right side. And notice that an option is to take the top 2 or the bottom 2, but if you don't have both of those options. And as often as the case in a country road, the more constrained condition is going to be the one that's probably going to fully break the grid. And the one that feels constrained is where we put these unused cells closer to all the other shapes. So let me just quickly sort of see what happens if we do that. First, we have the loop coming in like so. It's going to corner here. It's going to come up here. It's going to have to come across here. And now we've brought the loop ends together in one region where we're not connecting to the whole rest of the loop. And that is very bad. That's very broken. And as is often the case in these, the more constrained spot is the bad spot. The less constrained spot's the okay spot. So instead, the loop comes like this. We have to take these cells. So we do. This comes in and fills in this corner. These are the 2 loop ends for this region. So to also reach the circle, this has to come up and around. But that looks like a valid shape. We have these ends set to touch or set to both come up and fill into this space. And so we now can turn our attention maybe to this one in the center and recognize that whatever the one does, it's going to be quickly doing a turn like this. And right now it can't do a turn right here in this cell. So we can mark these edges in as a start. And now it can't do a turn in this cell. So this is always part of the loop. And a 2, if this is part of the loop, can't reach this cell, so we get where we have to have these in the loop, and now that marks this as not usable. So we have this edge coming in. We now have to actually come up and through to make this a valid shape, and that means we now have one more edge is going to come to the right, but we're not entering this shape ever again. So this is how that looks. This cell has to be used. This is a 3, so this cell is not. We finish that. That now actually means this cell in the 1 isn't used, so this is the way this comes in and turns. So this isn't used, so the loop has to continue to the right. This comes in, this comes in. You just have to just mark these loop ends. And this cell being off of that X has to get filled in. So we finish the country road. Different notation styles, whether you like marking the boundaries or shading in or shading off cells that are there. We tried to use this line OX style to help, and just for this video I turned on the helper X as well. But hope you got a sense of how to work your way through this brick wall, and if you tore down this brick wall successfully, there are a lot of other country road puzzles in the book Loop Variety collection coming out this weekend. It's maybe all released by the time you've seen this video, so check that out, and we'll see you again soon.